Awesome. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I am Brandon McLean. I want to talk about this last message to Drumline, man. It's exciting. We are coming to the end of another year. I'm so excited. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but I believe it is something that is a must watch. I would say, I believe it was Thursday morning. I had Thursday off. And this sermon came about 48 hours, 24 hours, somewhere between 24. I wrote it, prepared it, prayed about it, preached it, posted it. I usually don't watch TV with the point of inspiration. Usually I watch things with the point of just entertainment. And this one, it really did something. I mean, it came out in 2002. So to think about it in its fullness, I was 3 years old when this came out. It's a musical slash comedy. But to really think about it, this movie began to really speak to me because there was so many things that I felt that burdened my heart that I learned in my heart and also saw in myself. I believe this is a wonderful movie. We had great actors like Nick Cannon, Zoe Saldana, Orlando Jones, Leonard Roberts, Candace Carey, Earl Portier. We had wonderful J. Anthony Brown, Miguel, Angela, Shay Roundtree, Omar Dorsey, Jason Weaver, are just some stellar actors. In this movie. And I think, when you look at it, it has an 82% Rotten Tomatoes. Like that's really good. And hats off to Charles Stone the third, the director. I don't really like the sequel. Just put that out there, but I believe that this movie here had a lot of gems, a lot of gems. And just to really understand this movie, you have to really you really have to get connected to Devin Miles. You got to really, really like him and start trying to figure out why is he the way he is. But for me, I not only connected to Devin, but I also connected to the drumline, the director, Dr. Lee, but as well as what's the guy's name that was over him? Sean, yeah, Sean, who gave him the hardest time ever. But I think Sean also realized that he was better than him. And as a leader, he had the choice whether to hold him back or push him forward. And I felt like that was a Saul and David relationship in the introduction there, where there was some tension, and he had to make the choice to put aside his wants or his feelings towards Devin and think about the team in totality. And Devin had to do the same, so they were both learning um, as the movie went along. And what's funny is as I was watching the movie, I was watching it for entertainment and I like laughing and stuff like that. But then the quotes start to really stand out to me. And what happened was, busy Saturday. I began rewinding and listening to what it was. And I believe if you really hone in on the sermon in those 3 points, um, I think the catalyst of the whole sermon, the whole um, movie is us over me. You have to put aside what you want um, for the betterment of the team. Um, Us over me is an easy statement, but a hard pill when you have desires, when you have wants, when you have passions, when you feel some type of way. It's still us over me. I think Devin really wanted to lead the group, but leading the group wasn't about him. It was about everybody. He wanted to be seen. He wanted to be out front. But we all, in some capacity, want to be out front, but are we out front leading the right way? Are people actually following us and getting things done? Because sometimes people are following you, but they ain't doing nothing. They're just following you. They're not working. So Devin needed to come to the realization not only are you supposed to lead them, but you got to lead by example. He wanted to be a solo leader, but when a leader, you have to be involved, engaged, which I like that as he began to learn music, he began to use his talents and giftings to help others by in nature his giftings as he honored and he was disciplined in his gifting in his craft. He was able to help others because it's not always just about you becoming better, but it's also helping others become better in theirs as well. So the thing is, if the rest of the band was bad but he was stellar, it did him no good because they wouldn't win. Because in the nature, they wanted, in the season, the board and them, they really, donors, they wanted to see a good band. But at the end of the day, he got to win the trophy. You know, the solo acts during the season is cool for a football game. But when it gets down to competition, it's not about solo, it's about unity. People want to hear something. They want to see something different at a halftime show. But doing an award show, when you can win a competition, they want to see the team. You don't go to a basketball game. We go to basketball games to see a person, but that person still needs someone to pass the ball, still needs somebody to rebound. So in nature, even though you come in to see one person who can be an all-star act, all-American, there still takes a team to carry them, help them, because that person needs to other people to at least do their job. I mean, the band may sound good, but if all the trumpets and horns are off, nothing sounds good. So I think it was important that if when you really look at that King David, King Saul mentality, that relationship there is a level of leadership. Everybody wants to be out front, but you must follow. Before you get to the front, you must be in the back some capacity. Not saying you got to be last, but you're going to be backwards, behind rather, because you've got to. God is going to allow you to work your way up. So I think it's an awesome movie, awesome movie. That second thing I thought about, you must have honor and discipline to perfect your crafts. I often think about people who play instruments but can't play by ear. Now I know that's harder. It was hard for me, but if you really want to be the best, you've got to take the time to learn. Now, if you don't really care to be the best, okay, that's neither here nor there. If you're okay with your level of music ability, that's fine. But when you want to become the best, it takes honor. You got to honor the gifting that you have, and you have to be disciplined to perfect it. I think that's crazy how far he had gotten and couldn't even read music. A stellar, I was gonna say athlete, but a stellar musician, but couldn't even read it because he had made his handicap, his crutch, he had used it against him, against others, and where they couldn't pick up because he was able to play what he heard, not play what he saw. And I think that means he was a good mimicker. He wasn't a good originator. I said that in my sermon as well. So I think when you really look at that movie, my goal for it was to connect the dots. I think that we live in a world where we look at it, everything very singular, every individualistic, but we have to look at it in the context of, if I'm part of a team, how can I make my team better? I think we often ask that in job interviews. How could you make the team better? But my question is, this is a message really for believers and people like that. Like, how do you make your church better? How do you make everyone else better around you? How do you make those better? How do you make the church better? How do you make your team better? How do you make the ministry better? There's something that you must bring to the table to make everything better. And I think the Bible gives it best that we are the salt and light of the earth. What are we making better? That's the question. What are we adding the flavor to? What are we preserving? What are we constructing? What are we doing? And I think that's the important thing, um, that we must think like and this is what's crazy when you look at the movie, that every section of it, if it was the tubas, the bass, the dancers, the drums, everybody kept saying, "We're the heart of the band. We're the heart of the band." Everyone said that, but really, the heart of the band was in the unity. They all worked to be the best, but if each department was working their best, it all sounded good. And I think that's important because the hand doesn't say, "Oh, I want to be a foot." No, the hand has to function properly so that we can do what we want, that we need to do. And I think that's very important, that when we look at that, when we look at our jobs, when we look at our churches, when we look at our organizations, when we look at our teams, when we look at our family, are we all putting us over me? I'm often fathomed by people who have 7 or 8 kids and they're going to 6 or 7 different restaurants just to get dinner. It's like, by the time you get home, everybody's food is cold, unless it's the last person. But we do so much to satisfy everybody that we don't have true unity. Sometimes it's not always about pleasure, it's about growth, it's about community, it's about the people that is around us. It's not about pleasure, it's about the people that are around us that should satisfy um, our spiritual appetite. And I think it's very important that we understand. Um, you know what God is trying to do. There's some things that need to happen, that should happen and do happen in group. I think it's small groups and Bible study groups, and one-on-one sessions and meetings that are very important. That we have to stop being selfish and look at what's for the greater good of those surrounded around me. And I think that is very important that we have our lens on that. So I think it's good. I think Nick Cannon played Devin Miles really good, um, and he had to mature. He had to grow up to be the leader that he needed to be. And sometimes we want to be in the front, but we don't want to make the sacrifice. And I believe that's what God is telling me in 2025. What I want is going to come with great sacrifice. So that means I'm going to have to, put something to a side so that I can go forth to where God needs me to be. I'm excited. Check this sermon out. We're connecting the dots. 2025 is going to be great. Remember this: you must follow before you lead. You must have honor and discipline to perfect your crafts. Make sure that you remember that the sound of the lion is better than your drum. It's always us over me. Make sure you check the sermon out. Make sure you check the movie out. I've got the disc up there. Make sure you try it. Drumline 2002. I believe it's on Disney. It's on Tubi right now for free. Go check it out. God bless y'all.